Yo, check, check. Can you hear me? Am I muted? Let me see here. No, I'm not muted. Are you with us? I can't hear you.
Sorry, bro. Could you give me about 5 more minutes?
5 more minutes. All right, yeah, sure. Go ahead.
Stand by. I can't hear you well.
All right.
Hold on.
Well, while we're waiting on him, I'd like to welcome everybody.
Yeah, your
Welcome
audio is not
everybody.
coming through at all. But I'll
At
be back
all.
anyway.
Okay.
Wait, so
Can y'all hear me? If there's anybody in the chat, please let me know. Am I coming through? Is it coming through? Yeah, it's coming through.
How are you doing? Are you
It's just
stressed
Desmond.
out? Are you good?
I'm gonna mute him while he's doing this. Okay. Welcome back, welcome back, welcome back. Once again, this is the Akla and Knuckle Show. I am Matthew Muhammad. I go by Akla. My co-host, who is currently getting his stuff together, Desmond Penniman, aka Damadez. And today we're going to be wrapping up our previous discussion about Paul, and also just kind of letting the conversation flow to whatever other topics we feel we want to cover. But if you'd like to join in and ask questions, push back on anything that we've said, that will be great. I love hearing opposing views. I love getting to the bottom of things. So rather than just listening to myself talk, I much prefer to have other people's views represented fairly. And that can only happen if you join in. So feel free to click that link or copy and paste it if you can't click it. And it'll bring you right to our live stream, and you'll be able to join the stage and say what you got to say. In the meantime, let me see. I should probably, well, no, we don't have to do that. But just to kind of wrap up what we've talked about thus far, we still have a lot to talk about as far as Paul is concerned, but we're probably not going to get to everything just because it's such a vast topic. We'll just probably have to come back to it in future videos. But I don't want to just only talk about Paul for every episode, so we're probably going to move away from him for now, and then we can come back, as we need to. Paul was an enigmatic figure. Definitely could argue that he is the founder of Christianity. That's how I view him anyway. But there's a lot of people who would, of course, push back on that, and I understand that. But when you look at the facts, when you look at what Christianity is today, and you look at Paul's views, and then you look at, say, the historical Jesus, digging through the muck that is, the history of the Bible, then you come to find that Christianity, as it's practiced today, is vastly, vastly further influenced by Paul and Pauline thought than it is by Jesus' own teachings, the words out of his mouth, right? We've looked at a few points of contention where Jesus is telling you, obey the law. And Paul comes and says, you don't have to do that. We have positions where Jesus is telling you to give up your riches and follow him. And Paul is saying, pay me for giving you the gospel, right? We've looked at points where Paul contradicts himself a number of times, going back and forth, saying one thing to some people and saying another thing to other people. And of course, with that, we want to give him a little bit of grace and say, well, maybe there's a more nuanced explanation here. But when it's explicit, when it's both A and not A, then there's no reconciling it. And so that's what I think is the takeaway from everything that we're going to finish up with today and everything that we've already said about him. The takeaway is that this is who you are putting your faith in when you practice Christianity as it's taught today. This is what you have to focus on, or this is who you have to have the utmost faith in. Not Jesus, because you aren't listening to Jesus' words. It's Paul and people who follow Paul's teachings. The church fathers, everything that the church traces its sources back through is all Pauline Christianity. None of the other opposing Christianities or competing Christianities survived, and that's not by accident. It's not they just naturally, fell off. They were wiped off the face of the planet. That's just a nice way of saying it. You were given one choice and told that this is the way it has to be, but they silenced a bunch of other voices in order to give you that message. So the question you have to ask yourself is a person who is constantly contradicting himself, constantly speaking out of both sides of his mouth, is that someone that you can put your faith in, someone that you can trust your salvation with? Right? That's the ultimate question. Right? Because if you look at the historical Jesus, you come to a very different belief system than what Christians practice today. And that's just the black and white of it. So let's see. Where is Desmond? It shouldn't take him this long. He said 5 minutes. That was like 10 minutes ago. Well, we're continuing to wait for him. While we're doing that, I'm going to post a couple of links, make it easier for you guys. 1 second. Yep, this is where I wanted to go. We've got, let's go to Desmond's. Yes. Oh, I'm already there. Okay, and then we're going to comment. If it will allow me. What is this boy doing?
Test 1 2 3 4 5.
Hey, welcome
Test
back.
test 1 2 3.
Can you hear me?
What?
I said, can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Excellent.
No, only you answered.
Oh, you're on the phone.
Yo, I can see your lips moving, but you're not speaking, bro. Wait, maybe it's
I
on my
checked.
end.
Yeah, I
I'm
am.
just not
It's you.
realizing it.
It's you.
Look up. Press. Tap up. What does this mean?
What does what mean? What are you talking about?
Never mind.
Are you talking?
I still can't hear you guys. You're gonna have to take that you keep pointing up, but I don't know what that means. Yeah, message it. Drop it in the chat, as the kids say.
I can't hear you right now.
Stand by. Okay.
Okay, there we go.
Oh, wait. Say something else? Yes, sir.
Something
Yes, sir.
else.
My bad. You're right. That's an easy fix.
You just have to turn the volume
Ladies
up.
and gentlemen, please stand by as we commence the final exploration. This is our final exploration. Um, I wouldn't call it a wrap up. I'll just call it a end
We're
point.
kind of we're phasing because I don't want to spend the entire podcast like I don't want to spend months on one person. I'm just on Paul.
Yes, I
So
agree.
we'll touch on a couple of things, wrap up some stuff we were talking about, and then we'll just kind of let the conversation naturally flow. There's a bunch of auxiliary topics that you have brought up that I said we'd circle back to, so this would be a great time to touch on some of those.
Okay.
1 second, I'm just going to hack your page and pin that comment. Okay. Uh, uh, uh. Wait. How do I do that? That's not what I want to do.
I need to put a mat down. This floor is hard. Hold on.
All right.
Oh. Okay. Sorry, bro. That was on my end for sure.
You're good. Why can't I pin comments anymore?
Because I got to hook these headphones to the audio receiver.
No, like it used to be. I don't know. Do I have to go into this? Will that help? Um. Oh, there we go. Got it. Okay. I'm ready when you are, sir.
I'm ready in 18 seconds.
What in blazes? All right. Guess we're still standing by. Oh, 6:37 already. We gotta get rolling.
Oh, we're not standing by. I'm just breathing for the last 18 seconds. I thought you heard me
Oh,
when I said that.
I heard you say you'll be ready in 18 seconds, but your camera's off, so I thought you stepped away.
No, I didn't step away. I just don't want the whole world to see my ugly meditation faces.
Is it worse than your normal ugly face?
Mm-hmm.
Well, then we appreciate that.
And we're ready.
All right. So, getting back to it. Do you remember where we left off 2 weeks ago? Because we skipped a week.
We were talking about no, I'm not even gonna pretend.
Okay, so we touched on a lot of different things, and we got pretty close to the the homilies is where I think we were supposed to
Oh
be picking back
yeah.
up again.
I think that's
Yeah.
exactly where we should start, honestly, because we keep brushing up against it, and I would
Okay.
like to see where that takes us.
All right. Fair enough. Fair enough. So, when it comes to those homilies, there's a few things we want to keep in mind as we, kind of like a preface, right? So, the Clementine homilies are also known as the pseudo Clementines, right? They are documents that were found. Oh, don't quote me on this. I want to say they were found in the 3rd or 4th century, somewhere around there. Don't quote me on that.
About
But basically, they are a document that are known forgeries, but at the same time, those known forgeries are explicitly believed by scholars to be authentic reflections of what those 3rd or 4th century Ebionites believed. So there's two things to keep in
Can we
mind.
just?
One, go ahead.
No, you first. I'll let you finish your thought.
I was just saying two things to keep in mind. One, these were not actually written by the Ebionites themselves, or they weren't written by the person they're attributed to themselves. Let's put it like that. And then two, there's a gap between the earliest Ebionites, which are thought to be some of the very first, if not the first, Christian groups on the face of the planet. And this document and these Ebionites who are following it. So that's a lot of time. That's like 300 years, 300 or 400 years of time to have outside influence, to lose things, to develop new things. And so it doesn't necessarily tell us what those first Christians thought on everything, but it can give you a landscape to work with, right? It gives you something to kind of look at and say, okay, well, it couldn't have strayed too far from this, especially once you put it in or next to the other things that we have, other writings that we found, particularly in the Dead Sea Scrolls,
So Matthew,
which is
before you go
something
too
that's,
deep down this path,
yeah.
I don't want to be that guy, but I find fault with the whole premise that we know it's a false forgery, but scholars conclude. Pretend like
What
I'm
do you
ignorant.
disagree with about the
I
scholars
don't
concluding this?
disagree. I just need a little qualifying that conclusion.
What do you mean? Why do they
I mean, I
agree on
trust you,
this?
but I don't trust you. Essentially, so like, what are you basing that on? Type like
That's like
that's a bold
scholarship.
claim.
um, Scholarship. Like if you go and look at
I guess,
what biblical scholars are saying about these documents, they tell you. Like,
but I guess deeper than that. Forgive my ignorance, but I just don't see how that conclusion. I don't understand how a scholar could make that conclusion.
well,
Like, we
there's
know it's
a
a
few different
forgery, but we know
reasons.
it's an accurate forgery. It's just kind of like how.
When I say an accurate forgery, what I listen to my specific words. It's very specific. It is an accurate representation of what the Ebionites of that time believed. Do you see the distinction there?
I was fixing my mic. Actually, can you just say it again?
I said that my specific words were that it is a forgery, but it is an accurate representation of what the Ebionites of that time believed.
Accurate representation of what the Ebionites believed. Okay, so
Yes.
that makes sense, but doesn't make sense right here. It's real small, and I promise we'll move on. And it's because they're comparing it to other works of Ebionites at the time that are actually from them. It just seems like we're
Say it
doing a
again.
lot of jumping around just to give this text some basis to be worth reading.
What
I just feel like we're
jumping are you
trying too
talking
hard.
about? Who's
You're telling me
trying too
that
hard?
this is a forgery, that it has been concluded that this gives an accurate representation of the Ebionites' belief at the time. It seems to me that, and I know that Victor writes the history, but why do we have to go to this third party forgery and not the direct source?
The victors don't believe in this. And they're telling you this is what they believed. Or at least arguing against it as if it's what they believed.
And we're gonna assume that they're not being hyperbolic.
They may be, but that's why I said these are caveats that I'm saying to keep in mind as we explore these things.
Okay. All right.
But what's the jumping you were talking about? You say you feel like we're jumping around to make this work. What can you kind of flesh that out? What you mean by that?
By jumping around, it seems like there should be much more streamlined methods to find out what the Ebionites believed, other than relying on a forgery. So by jumping around,
Why
it seems
can't
like
we do that?
because the victors write the history.
Not just
And I'm
because they
assuming
write the
you're
history.
saying that they all their shit is gone except these forged fake documents and whatever else the scholars
Not
have found.
necessarily. Not necessarily. I'm not saying this is all we have, but I'm saying that a big part of the problem is the fact that these people were branded as heretics, burned alive, documents burned, like they were erased from history, right? So it's like you can't say, well, we should have a more streamlined way of the Christians as we know them today, or what Christianity came from, made sure that we didn't.
Yeah. Sure.
Um,
We can move on because I do hear you. It's just such a icky place through which to view something. But
well,
I
here
get it.
I'll tell you what. I'll tell you what. Just so you don't have to trust me. You don't have to trust my word on it. Go ahead, pull up Gemini and just ask it. Why are scholars sure that the Clementine homilies authentically reflect the views of the Ebionites? And then I won't even
Hmm.
have to say anything. You can just hear it from ChatGPT or Gemini.
That was a great way to ask the question. Well, why are scholars sure that the Clementine homilies?
Let's just say confident instead of sure. Why are they confident?
Yeah, yeah, I like that even better. Confident that the Clementine homilies are accurate. What
Accurate representations of Ebionite beliefs.
beliefs? Okay, BLIES.
You wanna share it so we can put it on the screen?
Yeah, I'll do that now. Present, share, Gemini, share. You see it?
Yeah, I can see it.
Says scholars are confident that the Clementine homilies and his companion work, the Clementine Recognitions, offer a genuinely accurate representation of Evian beliefs because of several reasons. Shared themes with patristic accounts.
Patristic accounts, the church fathers.
Shared themes with, okay. Many of the distinct beliefs described in the Clementine homilies align well with what the early church fathers wrote about them. Okay, even though the fathers often condemned them as heretics. Okay, so okay. What the homilies? The homilies are supposed to be a forgery of who? Remind me,
Clementine.
Clementine. The belief that Jesus was mere man. This won't be good for content, but just give me a second to read this for myself since you already know it, or should I read it out loud?
Feel free, whatever you feel is cool. I mean, I don't mind if you read out loud.
Distinct in scripture. The homilies exhibit unique approaches to interpreting the Old Testament, including the concepts of false. What's that word? Precipes.
Pericope, like the pericope adultery.
That's a new one for me. I don't mean to look that up in Gemini. Thank you. I'll check that out later. Okay. This aligns with some church fathers reported about. Okay, that's what the church fathers who even saw them as heretical said about them. Anti-sacrificial. So it's the content. Stronger emphasis on blah. Valuable source of understanding is important to know. Okay. Okay. Yeah, that helps me to see it as a novel per se and not like some sort of historical literary.
All right, all we're pulling from this are their beliefs.
Yes.
We're not saying this is a historical fact. Everything they say is true. We're just saying this is what they believed.
Did you say something and then stop?
I said
Hello?
we're not taking this as historical fact, like something that absolutely happened. We're just looking at it and determining what they believed.
Yes, sir. Okay. I'm pretty clean now. Let me just read what this polemic purpose is. Polemic, particularly against Paul. Polemic means Paul?
What?
This
No,
term
polemical. Like arguing against. Like it's
Okay.
Like if
Homilies are
all I did
polemical.
was,
Oh yeah. It's polemical against Paul.
yeah.
Gotcha. And certain Gnostic ideas. This means they are presenting a particularly critically understanding their agenda. Okay. All right. Thank you. I am my curiosity is satiated. So essentially the scholars can conclude this is legit because for one, the church fathers at the time would argue that this is how the Ebionites believed, viewed things basically on a variety of different points. Paul, high regard for James, vegetarian stuff, Peter being venerated, internal consistency. Okay. Ebionite sources. All right, bro. I'm listening.
Wait, where was I?
So we were just establishing that this can be seen as a excellent, or at least a useful characteristic of what the Ebionites believed during this time period.
Okay. Um, so let's talk about what they actually say. What do the homilies actually say um about these figures, Paul? So a broad overview, without going into the nitty-gritty just yet. The Ebionites hated Paul. Right? They considered him to be a deceiver, a liar, and an enemy of the law. Right? Sound familiar?
Yeah, sounds like the same thing the Asians thought about him.
Hey, well, um, and interestingly, they heralded, like they considered the leader of the church to be James, like I've been saying. Um, they also were believed that Peter was kind of like fighting this internal battle, like almost silently, like a secret battle is being fought behind the scenes between Paul and Peter. Um,
Can we talk about the relation between Peter and James?
Peter and James are both like pillars of the church. They're both highly important and authoritative figures within the church. They're both apostles. James is just the one who has the final say. He has the authority. He's the James the Just, or Yaqub al-Sadiq, I want to say they call him. I think that's how he's referenced in the Dead Sea Scrolls as well. They keep referring to this person called as-Sadiq, which if you speak Arabic or if you are familiar with Islam, you will recognize that as the title that was assigned to Abu Bakr, which was Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam's right-hand man, and the man he considered to be his brother, though not by birth. And then you have this same parallel in the history of Christianity, right? This isn't something that Muslims made up. This is predates the Quran by quite a few centuries.
Yeah.
But you have the right hand man of Jesus with the same honorary title, as-Sadiq, which means the trustworthy. Or the trustworthy isn't even a fully, it's not a complete translation. It only scratches the surface of what as-Sadiq means. Some people might translate it more thoroughly by saying the saint, like he, or the holy one. It's not just merely being trustworthy. It's a lot of other things wrapped into one. And this is the problem with trying to translate these Semitic languages into English, is you lose so much meaning because of
Yeah.
those
Yeah.
triliteral roots are so deep and rich.
I can believe it. If it's any
Yeah.
like I've seen it every time I try to talk to a friend, somebody with a non-English first language, inevitably there's times I've had a Zulu say it, Hawaiians have said it to me, where they'll be talking about some term, and we're not even talking about something esoteric or deep. We're just talking about
Right.
like maybe an emotion,
Mm-hmm.
or like sometimes it'll be an object, but usually it's an emotion or something a little more internal. And oh yeah, I've seen some in German too, where there's these just different permutations or mixing of thoughts that can be captured in certain words, where you gotta like break it down. But then when they try to break it down in English to explain this Zulu word per se, they get frustrated with themselves because they eventually realize like it can't be said in English. Like
Right.
there's no equivalent, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
We can get
Um,
close, maybe.
so one other thing I want to kind of bring into this discussion is a scholar by the name of Robert Eisenman. I've mentioned him at least once before.
Yeah,
Um,
that's
but
Patrick's cousin.
yeah, Patrick's cousin, not to be confused with Pratik. Um, he he's the reason why we have the Dead Sea Scrolls. He's the reason why we're able to actually read them. He didn't find them. But what he did was he basically
Made him
lobbied and
public.
lobbied and lobbied and got on people's nerves to the point where the Vatican had to release control of him to the public.
Yeah, I
Like
want to
basically,
say for like 30 years they were just locked and
yeah,
sealed.
it was for a long time. They were just like under lock and key, and only very specific people had access to them.
Let's just take a
Um,
moment to think that through because um I've listened to many podcasts, not many, but there's quite a few people who speak on the work that is done with what's it called? At the Vatican and the archives. And
yeah.
so just imagine they were able to obscure that recent discovery in the 70s for 30 years. Or I think it's the 70s
Mm-hmm.
when they let it out.
Mm-hmm.
But in any event, like just imagine, and that took so much squeaky wheel getting the oil type vibes
Yeah.
where like somebody had to
Yeah.
petition for decades. And this guy had to have, if I'm not mistaken, he was like impeachable credentials as just like a scholar, like as a academic, if I'm not mistaken. It's
You
kind of
talking
the
about
only way.
Eisman?
Yeah.
What about him?
Wasn't the only reason, correct me if I'm wrong, but part of the reason they finally had the cave is because he had impeccable credentials and he just
Oh,
wanted to study it from like a scholarly, like open source type of space, not
I
for.
don't even remember off the top of my head the exact reason that they finally gave in to him. I just remember it took him forever to actually accomplish this.
I
Um,
want to say there was a point where I got deep on the Dead Sea Scrolls or the Nag Hammadi texts, one of those two. The one that, but in any event, I remember reading where like the only reason it was allowed per se was because the dude, not just him, but everybody who was a part of it was just kind of. It was like a scholarly pursuit. They were like, you guys are keeping knowledge from us that anyway, past that, my point being though, it took so much attempts and just to get that one document out. But we know for a fact that for decades and centuries, this organization has had its hands on the most precious texts from around the world. I mean, the Crusades was basically a state sponsored treasure hunt where they went around and collected all these text and knowledge. Some say that's what happened to a lot of the books that were apparently burned in Alexandria. Was a lot of them was scuttled to the Vatican, and so there's probably so much knowledge that we could have and should have, but it's just literally right under our fingertips or right under our
yeah,
nose.
so I'm looking at it now. They were found in 1948. Well, they
Yeah,
started being found in 1948 and they finished finding all of them that they have now by 1956. Eisenman didn't even start campaigning to get them public until
to the 80s.
86.
Right.
So this is 40 years later that he's just
Of
coming on
obscurity.
trying to get access.
Yeah.
Um, and it says initially when
It went to London, right? Didn't like some school in London was the first to get it?
yeah, I think they were being held in a museum, and eventually, I want to say he got a Xerox copy of like one document from there while he was at Oxford. Um, um, but hang on. So it says, oh my gosh, they it said initially when he was a National Endowment for the Humanities Fellow at the Albright Institute of Archaeological Research in Jerusalem, he found that he was barred from accessing the scrolls. And he and a colleague were explicitly told that they would not see the scrolls in their lifetime. That is bold. That's crazy.
That just
But
speaks
he
to
eventually came into possession of a complete computer printout of all the scrolls held by the Israel Antiquities Authority, and later a complete photographic archive. So maybe I'm getting my wires crossed. Maybe it wasn't the Vatican. Maybe it was this
no. It's
Israel
not that you. I think
Antiquities
you might be
Authority.
getting the documents crossed. The Nag Hammadi scrolls. One of those two.
I'm talking about the Dead Sea Scrolls. So
Okay.
that would be Qumran.
Qumran, is that in Egypt or Israel?
It's like Palestine.
Yeah, in that case, it's the one. Maybe it's the one that's found in Egypt. One of them was what you were saying. That's accurate.
Okay, okay.
But in any
Um,
event, we don't need to get bogged down in the details.
yeah, once you asked the question, it got me curious. So I wanted to see
Only
what it
because I
was that
literally
finally
went
led
down this
them.
deep dive of these texts, and I like literally was just fascinated. But from my research, it was a woman who was the squeaky wheel, not a man. I remember
So
this
maybe we
chick.
are just talking about two different things. I'm talking about the Dead Sea Scrolls, and you're talking about the Nag Hammadi Library.
Yeah, maybe that's what it is. In any event, both were absconded because it was like against the main. It almost makes me sound like Donald Trump.
Don't get me started on Trump. Um, but yeah, so
Let's get
ultimately
back to work.
they didn't get they didn't get fully released until 1991. So basically, um, um, almost 50 years. Say like 45 years before from their initial discovery to when the public had access to them. They were kept under
Disgusting.
lock and key. Um, and
Okay,
that first copy that Eisenman got was obviously illegal. He wasn't supposed to have it. But once he found it, he was like, we got to get this out. And he kept fighting and kept fighting and kept fighting. And then finally it was released. But anyway, I want to bring that into this discussion because it has a very interesting relationship to what we are talking about with these homilies. So if you look at the Ebionite records and the Dead Sea Scrolls, particularly through Professor Eisenman's theories, because as I mentioned before, after looking at these and like looking at their beliefs, Eisenman is convinced without any knowledge of Islam whatsoever, well, I can't say any knowledge, but without any deep and detailed knowledge into the Quran, just based off a very surface level, he's convinced that Prophet Muhammad SAW was secretly meeting with a remnant Ebionite sect that was hiding out in caves in this area, and that they were teaching him because of how closely the beliefs align.
I'm just gonna say that's right now. That's a hot take, and I would love if you like gave his argument.
He doesn't really have a full argument. That's it. That's his theory. He just thinks that because they're so closely related, or
But
because they're
what's closely
so
related? I would think it's
the
more than
belief
just.
system, their views on Jesus, their teachings about theology, what it takes to be saved, salvation, all that stuff.
But
It's
and
so
some
in
idea of the
line.
location too, right? Like
Well,
the
no, the
location where they
location
had to
is
go out
is
to be obscured.
the location is very different. So we're talking about um the 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 Dead Sea Scrolls, which are, I
No, I'm talking
guess,
about them
kind of, huh?
both going out into the mountains to like avoid persecution.
Yeah, but but they're talking about where it's happening. If I go into the mountains of the Appalachian Mountains, and and you say this person went to the mountains of Arabia, it's not the same mountains, and they would have
Right,
no
right,
contact.
right. Sure.
Um, but we can look into that later because like I said, that's just his very cursory view of like why this is so similar, because a lot of people in not just his field, but just in the field of theology and history in general, they try and come up with secular, or I should say naturalistic explanations for the Quran. And we kind of touched on this in
Mm,
our previous discussions because, of course, when it comes to history, right, they need a natural explanation. It's
yeah.
called methodological naturalism, right?
Sure.
It's a way of going about finding explanations for things that don't require supernatural explanations, and that's how history is approached. That's why you can't look for historical proof of a miracle, because history would never acknowledge one, because they're using methodological naturalism, or science for that matter. But anyway, in trying to explain this phenomenon of the Quran, that's how we get into these revisionist theories. What's funny? Share with us.
Shouts out to Shanika for
I can't see it.
oh, it's a text message. But shouts out for Shanika for no matter what, no matter how far, adding his 2 cents to the conversation. He said, and I quote, "I'll be miles away from the chat today, but I couldn't resist." Um, why the Clementine homilies matter for early Christian debates? Well, first, he wanted to ask, are Clementine homilies an authoritative source to use to understand debates within early Christianity?
You said authoritative source to understand
To use
debates.
to understand debates. Hmm.
Well, I guess it depends on what you mean by authoritative. Like I said, scholars say, and I agree with the scholars, that they are an accurate representation of
Yeah,
what Ebionite beliefs were.
I think
So if you
we've
take it
established
at that value, then yeah, of course it's telling you something about what the other side is saying. Oh, you froze there for a second.
Yeah, you did too. But I guess it's probably because I froze or the connection dropped.
All right.
I heard you though, most of it. Just the last second or six went in.
I was just saying, so yeah, obviously if we take it at for what it is, then it gives us the other side of the conversation, or at least part of the other side of the conversation.
Yeah, and the rest of what it says kind of underscores what we were getting to. So it's not even a disagreement. It's just added context that he shared.
Okay.
Yeah, extremely valuable source for understanding the alternative currents within early Christianity, which is what we're doing essentially.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Especially those associated with Jewish Christian groups and anti-Pauline polemics. Speaking of, bruh, why is chat using all these buzzwords? Anyway, go back. Let's log back in. Sorry for throwing you off.
You're
But
good.
thanks
You're
for
good.
acknowledging my snicker.
I forgot what I was saying though.
Methodology.
Methodological naturalism, and then trying to explain the Quran. So it's where you get all these revisionist theories that he had
Very
secret
good.
teachers, whether that be the Ebionites, as Eisenman thought, or whether it just be other Christians or a Jewish man, or even I've even heard theories that Wadak, I forget his father's name. I think it's bin Nafel, Wadak bin Nafel, something like that. Basically, his wife's uncle, when he first started receiving revelation. Some theories say that he was his teacher. But we've kind of gone over why none of those actually answer or explain the Quran, but we can touch back on that maybe in a future video. So yeah, this is his attempt to kind of make sense of things. Well, how does he know all these things? How does Prophet Muhammad have all this information? Because he had a secret Ebionite teacher. The Ebionites were already used to hiding in caves. That's why they hid their documents in caves. And so a group of them were in Arabia hiding in caves, and he stumbled across them as he would frequent the caves. But anyway, only point that we're drawing from that, only conclusion we're drawing from that, is that the early Christian beliefs align almost perfectly with Islam, which is what Islam has maintained the entire time before these
That's a
documents
hot
were even
take.
found.
Rashard, what do you think about that one? Nah, but that's an interesting take. I
Yeah,
can't just let you gloss over that. I would
I
love to.
mean,
I mean,
yeah,
I'm
go
gonna
for it.
gloss over it because it's just me and I agree with it. But I would love to hear a Christian's response to that reality.
Well, it will probably be something like what Eisenman is saying here, and that Prophet Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam just copied from these other. Who is Summit Streams? Summit Streams says that's not a hot take. Thank you, Summit Streams. I didn't think it was that hot, but that's what we're here for, to discuss. So anyway, let me jump back into it. Um, so these records in the Dead Sea Scrolls, and if we view them through Professor Eisenman's theories, present significant challenges to the
Tell that
established
take to
narrative.
any Christian, and you'll see how hot of a take that is. Any Christian, modern day Christian, if you tell them that their early church fathers were more aligned with Islam than they probably care to admit or realize, they would get hot.
Did you see his response?
Anyone who's an actual Christian scholar would agree there. Oh. And therein lies the problem, ladies and gentlemen. Many Christian church goers aren't scholars. They're just followers.
Yeah, that's an interesting conversation we could have about why more Christians don't look up what their scholars are saying, what
I'll
their
tell you why
scholarship
it's not
says.
taught. As somebody who has many Jewish friends, they're taught to
I
question.
mean,
They're
I mean
taught
that's fair.
their whole
That's fair.
understanding is they're never taught just to accept their religion. They're taught to understand it, digest it, and be a part of it. And I think a lot of times, and this is only my opinion from my small skewed view, a lot of times in the US churches, they're only focused on collecting money for the building fund and like getting you excited to come back for another service. But there's not the larger scholarship that needs to be happened to make somebody truly understand why.
I mean, that's fair. I haven't really thought about. I mean, I've thought about it obviously, but I don't often keep that in the forefront of my thoughts. That Islam and perhaps even Judaism, as you were saying, they kind of teach you to study. Like they're like, hey, look, you need to you need to learn about these things. You need to go and research. And even still, even with that mindset, there's still a large number of Muslims who don't. It's not like we're all walking around like with full knowledge of what scholarship says. There's a vast, I don't know what you want to call it, a spectrum of Muslims and how deep they go into these things. And some people who are just like, especially in the Western countries, who just don't give it any thought at all. They're just kind of like you were talking about with Christians. They just take it and go with it, just kind of vibe. But anyway, that's why we're here. We're gonna share this information. So anyway, what was I saying? I was talking about the Dead Sea Scrolls and the Ebionites. So that some of the challenges that are presented by these Ebionite records and the Dead Sea Scrolls to the established narrative of early Christianity, it offers a critical perspective on Paul and, of course, elevating the importance and orthodoxy of the Jerusalem church, which was led by James and Peter. So they challenge Paul's background and his truthfulness, right? The Ebionite records contain judicial findings asserting that Paul's parents were Gentile, like we were talking about, and he was not circumcised until adulthood, implying that he lied about his background, especially his claim that we find in Philippians 3. This directly contradicts Paul's self-proclaimed Jewish heritage and circumcision on the 8th day, which he explicitly says in his letters. This accusation is characterized as having a judicial ring to it, right? And it appears to be the result of an investigation into Paul's background. Like somebody started putting some dots together, like this isn't adding up, and they did an actual investigation, and they said this man's a liar. You're making a face. What do you want to say?
Just digesting it.
Okay.
But I am a bit perplexed, so you're accurate.
So it's just suggested. We're just kind of reading between the lines, right?
Yeah.
It just appears to be the result of an investigation into his background. And if it is, then that suggests a formal process of questioning his claims. So independent evidence, such as Paul's Roman citizenship from birth, which he's admitted to, his Roman name, Paul, and his greeting to a kinsman named Herodian, we looked at that as well.
Oh, yeah.
Is presented. Yeah, it's presented as corroborating the Ebionite charge that Paul was a Herodian Jew, not a true Jew. Uh, it, it also depicts this trial of Paul and contests his apostolic authority. So Professor Eisenman posits that writings among the Dead Sea Scrolls speak about a trial of Paul, with James as his primary antagonist in a heated confrontation. The Dead Sea Scrolls, Habakkuk, Pesher, and Damascus document portray a spouter of lies who Eisenman is identifying as Paul. Or not, he's not the only scholar, but we're just using his argument. But other scholars also identify him as Paul, who opposed the Sadiq. Remember, we were talking about that just a second ago. You recall that? You've
bad.
muted.
I didn't realize I was
There you
muting. The best friend or the companion? Yeah.
Yes. So Sadiq would be James, which means the righteous. He advocates justification without works. This is the spouter of lies. And seeking to deviate the congregation of the new covenant from the law.
Did you freeze? Oh.
I know I didn't freeze. I'm reading something. Oh, we our live ended on Instagram. It says that they currently disconnect streams after 1 hour for most users. If you want to continue streaming on Instagram, you can remove this destination from the stream and re-add it. I'm just gonna pass because I don't think anybody was.
Yeah, I don't know if we even have. Let me go check. Actually, I'm gonna look at my Instagram.
Okay. I gotta show you this before. This is what Malachi said on Instagram. He was on Instagram. I gotta show you this.
I can't even imagine what this dude saw.
This is so funny. Okay, share screen. There we go. Can you see this? Oh wait, I haven't swapped over. 1 second. I gotta add it to the stage. There you go. Can you see it now?
Yeah. Oh, let me make it bigger.
I can do that for you too.
Breathing ass Nick. Stop.
Okay.
All right, Malachi.
Oh, I needed that. I'm
gonna live to be 900 at this rate.
Oh boy. Well, you're gonna see a lot of things that I don't want to. All right. Anyway. What was I talking about? We talked about Paul being a Herodian. I think we were talking about James and their opposition to each other. So Paul was advocating for a justification without works, and of course seeking to move them away or move the congregation of the new covenant away from the law. And we see that plenty of times throughout the writings that we've looked at already. And this mirrors the well-known theological conflict between Paul and James. Like if you read some of the letters of Paul and then you read the letter or the epistle of James, the one that we do have that's been tucked into the back of the New Testament, you can see already the tension is there. And although there's been plenty of attempts to try and reconcile them, anybody who's looking at it objectively is not going to see it in that reconciled way. They're going to just, on a plain reading, take it for what it says. They're using the exact same arguments to argue two opposing views, which means that somebody is replying to the other. Right? They heard what you said. It's like if we're having an argument, use an analogy, and I run with your analogy to prove you wrong. Right? It's very explicit. But, of course, Christian apologists are going to do just that. They're going to apologize for Christianity. Like our friend Desmond here. So, what else? So we have more evidence of this trial in the Clementine homilies, right? Which scholars believe contain an earlier Ebionite fragment depicting a trial where Peter testifies against Paul. And in this account, Peter questioned Paul's vision-based authority arguing that Jesus' appearance to Paul was as one enraged with an adversary and lacked positive affirmation. So in this document, they're saying that Paul was on trial and that Peter bore witness against him, testified against Paul, and said that in Jesus's appearance to Paul, maybe Paul spoke about this at some point and he picked it up from, I don't know. But he's saying that in Jesus' appearance to Paul, Jesus was not friendly and was not saying all these loving things like, I'm choosing you to be and go into the Gentiles and blah, 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 blah. He was angry with him. He was an adversary to him. Now, me, my own personal opinion, I think that I don't know. Let's just put it like that. I don't know. But if we're looking, even if we take Paul's account of his conversion story on the road to Damascus at face value, let's say it, even though his two accounts, I think actually there's three accounts. Let's say his two or three accounts, even though they all contradict with each other, let's say we find a way to reconcile them all.
Sure.
Even in that framework, Jesus is reported as saying in the New Testament not to believe anyone who tells you that they saw him. Do you recall that?
I'm trying to think of that. I don't remember that specifically.
Here, let me pull it up for us so we can take a look at it. I don't know why I don't automatically just open up Bible Hub before I start these streams, because I know I'm going to go there.
Matt, make sure you check the private chat. Paul's own account seems to show some antagonism towards Paul. He does say he had something is a thorn in his side.
You're talking about where he talks about that demon that's
yeah, I guess that's not
tormenting
himself,
him.
though.
Yeah,
Yeah,
if this is not a typo, it's still correct. That's what's so funny about it. It doesn't matter if it's a typo or not. It's correct either way. Yeah, he shows antagonism towards himself. He self snitches very often. He makes these defenses of himself as if people are attacking him, which tells you one thing: people are attacking him. The only reason I would have to write to the city of Corinth and defend myself is if the city of Corinth itself or someone else
y'all ain't gonna defend my name.
right, or someone who's talking to the city of Corinth is attacking my character. Why else would I just randomly write you a letter and defending myself when no one said anything? That would be even worse, right? So the best case scenario, people are saying bad things about him. Worst case scenario, no one said anything and he's just self-snitching. But yeah, let me pull this verse up for us real quick. It says, let's see, if they claim to have seen me in the wilderness. Okay. All right, let's go back to sharing on the stage. There we go. We're going to go to Matthew. '24, I believe. Okay, so let's actually start here because this is very important. Let me zoom out just a little bit. All right. So the whole chapter is talking about signs and things to expect in the future. So Jesus is speaking here. He says, as Jesus left the temple and was walking away, his disciples came up to him to point out its buildings. Do you see all these things? He replied. Truly I tell you, not one stone here will be left on another. Every one will be thrown down. This is before, of course, the temple destruction occurred in the year 70.
Sure.
Although arguably this was written after 70, but that's another discussion. While Jesus was sitting on the Mount of Olives, the disciples came to him privately. Tell us, they said, when will these things happen, and what will be the sign of your coming and of the end of an age? Now, this is very important because what we're talking about here, it's all related. Jesus answered, see to it that no one deceives you, for many will come in my name, claiming I am the Christ, and will deceive many. And what happened to Paul? Someone came to him and said, I am he who you are prosecuting. I am the Christ, right? You will hear of wars and rumors of wars, but see to it that you are not alarmed. These things must happen, but the end is still to come. Nation will rise against nation and kingdom against kingdom. There will be famines and earthquakes in various places. All these are beginning of birth pains. Then they will deliver you over to be persecuted and killed, and you will be hated by all nations because of my name. At that time, many will fall away and will betray and hate one another, and many false prophets will arise and deceive many. Because of the multiplication of wickedness, the love of most will grow cold, but the one who perseveres to the end will be saved. And this gospel of the kingdom will be preached in all the world as a testimony to all nations, and then the end will come. So when you see standing in the holy place the abomination of desolation, spoken of by the prophet Daniel, let the reader understand. Then let those who are in Judea flee to the mountains. Let no one on the housetop come down to retrieve anything from his house, and let no one in the field return for his cloak. And as we were just saying, those early Christians, the Ebionites, were hiding in the mountains. How miserable those days will be for pregnant and nursing mothers. Pray that your flight will not occur in the winter or on the Sabbath, for at that time there will be great tribulation, unseen from the beginning of the world until now, and never to be seen again. If those days had not been cut short, nobody would be saved. But for the sake of the elect, the elect meaning the disciples, those days will be cut short. Here we go. This is crucial. At that time, if anyone says to you, look, here is the Christ, or there he is, do not believe it, for false Christs and false prophets will appear and perform great signs and wonders to deceive even the elect, if that were possible. See, I have told you in advance. And I also want to point out here that if that were possible, in Semitic language or in literature, and even in English as well, it would imply that this is what we would call an impossible conditional, right? So it's saying if it were possible that this would happen, but it's not possible, so it doesn't happen. So the elect don't actually get deceived. But we'll talk more about that later, I guess. So if they tell you, there he is in the wilderness, which is where Paul meets Jesus, do not go out. Or here he is in the inner rooms, do not believe it. For just as the lightning comes from the east and flashes as far as the west, so will be the coming of the Son of Man. Wherever there is a carcass, there the vultures will gather. This, to me, is saying a lot more than I think most people realize. Are you still with me?
Yes, sir, I'm here.
All right. What do you think when you read this 28? Wherever there is a carcass, there the vultures will gather.
Bro, that's pretty straightforward if you ask me.
Okay, talk to me.
Like wherever there's death, wherever there's like things decaying, You're going to find those opportunists, whether it be literal vultures for a carcass or just opportunists looking to deceive.
Right. But here Jesus is answering a question. What was the question they asked him?
If they say,
You need me to scroll back up to it?
yeah. That shit. When will these things happen, and what will be the sign of you coming in the end of the age? What will be the sign that you're coming in the end of the age?
Right. So they're asking about the end times and his return. They're like, give us some signs, give us something to look for, and tell us, when these things are going to happen. And as he's answering all this, he kind of finishes it off. Well, not really finishes off because he keeps talking after this. But one of the key things he says, talking about his return, is that if they tell you there he is, if someone just says, hey, Jesus came back, do not believe it. Why? Because when he comes back, no one will have to tell you. No one has to tell you that lightning is streaking across the sky. You can see it. Everyone will see it. Lightning comes from the east and flashes as far as the west. That's telling you this will not be a secret, isolated event. Everyone's going to see this. Right? So then he says, so will be the coming of the Son of Man. Wherever there is a carcass, there the vultures will gather. Now, this sticks out from everything else he's just said in this paragraph. Agree or disagree? You agree with that or you disagree?
I'm processing it. Because part of me doesn't see it really sticking out so much as it just.
Well, look at what he's talking about. If they tell you there he is in the wilderness, meaning the Son of Man, or, well, this is getting into some convoluted theories now, but let's just call the Son of Man. So if they tell you there the Son of Man is in the wilderness, do not go out. Or if they say here he is in the inner rooms, do not believe it. For just as lightning comes from the east and flashes as far as the west, so will the coming of the Son of Man be. Now, what have I been talking about in that part?
You're talking about not believing these fake false prophets coming to you.
Why?
Because they're going to come from all directions.
No, because you won't need anybody to tell you when the Son of Man comes. Because for just as the lightning comes from the east and flashes as far as the west, illuminating the sky, right? Everyone can see this. Lightning is it's very hard to miss, right?
Sure.
So will be the coming of the Son of Man. So there's two things you could take from that analogy: speed and mass witness. Right? When lightning flashes across the sky, it happens very fast, and a lot of people can see it all at once, from the east to the west. Agree?
Yeah.
Okay. So then after saying all of that, I say, wherever there is a carcass, there the vultures will gather. What does that have to do with the analogy I just said? Or with not believing the people claiming there he is?
I do. Oof. I see that question. It doesn't. I wouldn't have seen that at first, but it doesn't really follow the same kind of theme.
Right. That's why I said it sticks out a little bit. It's meant for emphasis. I think it's almost like a counter narrative, but not quite. It's like it's just
unless it's another sign, like just like you said, the signs from east to west is going to be obvious. It's going to be as obvious as.
Right. So what's the carcass here?
I think it's just anything bad, negative.
No, not anything bad. A carcass is very specific. It's not necessarily good or bad. It's just a carcass. What is a carcass? A carcass is just a dead animal, a dead body, right?
Well, that would be a cadaver, but yes.
A dead animal it's a carcass.
Yeah.
Okay, so there's a dead animal. That's what a carcass is. And Jesus doesn't say anything by accident, right? He's saying these things intentionally.
Right.
He's speaking in parables. So what does he mean by the carcass? What is the carcass in this parable? Because he's warning about something.
The unbelievers, or like the false prophets, the natural tendency for people to do what they do, says Summit Streams.
What do you mean by that, Summit? And feel free to join the stream. There's a link in here somewhere. I can
I'm
post it
pretty sure
again if you
this
want.
is the carcasses of those false prophecies he's telling you to avoid. People
No,
who
because they're not dead.
whenever there is a carcass. If it's not them, then the carcass will be maybe they're victims.
I would say the carcass here is referring to one of two things. On the very broad surface that I think would get the least amount of pushback, the carcass could be the church itself, the actual teachings of Jesus as he laid them out, right? And as he leaves the scene, what he leaves behind, if not preserved, becomes a carcass, and the vultures gather, and those are the false prophets, right? Pecking at it, saying, oh, hey, look, here he is. Here, they're trying to eat off of it, like how Paul was trying to get his living off of spreading the gospel.
Sure.
Okay. The other theory, which is going to get a lot of pushback from Christians, would be that the carcass is actually, or it could actually refer to the person who was actually crucified, who is not Jesus, right? Because of course in Islam we don't believe that Jesus was crucified, but we do believe
That's
that a
fake.
crucifixion took place and that somebody was. I'm sorry, 1 second. I tried to stop this from happening, but it's happening. So 1 second, I'll be right back.
No worries. So while he's gone, guys, I'm just going to point out that even if the carcass isn't an actual human or an actual event, it may just be an idea. I think it could be an idea, a bad idea, a dead idea. You know, the good thing about Summit Streams, for those still listening, Summit Streams is like a stream from the summit. If things are coming from the summit and it's flowing as it should, it's going to flow downhill. It's going to gain momentum. It's going to purify. But at the top of that stream, at the summit of the stream, there's life. Hey guys, stand by while Matthew's going. I need to go move my car actually.
Okay, sorry about that. Oh, looks like Desmond left anyway. All right. We'll give him a second to come back. Yo, Summit, if you are still there, we would love to have you come in and you don't even have to say much, you know. You can just speak up whenever you have something to say, but that way we don't have to hop back and forth reading the comments. We can just talk to you. Desmond's got to move his car. Yeah, I saw that, buddy. So let me post this. I'll do it from here. Oh wait, is it still copied? Let's just copy it here. Invite. Copy. Perfect. All right, we're going over here. No, thank you. Wait, how do I even do that? Can I? How do I? I don't know how to do this on my phone. Well, let's try it in here since we got a minute. I have to go into the studio? Is that it? No. Hmm. Your videos. Okay, maybe. Oh, I don't know. Live. Wait, what? Oh, wait, no, the other channel. I'm on the wrong one. I see now. Switch. There we go. Forgot I did that. Okay. Yeah, I don't even know how to do that. How do I need somebody to teach me YouTube. I just want to pull up the comments and wait, did I save? Just want to pull up the comments. Live chat. There should be something in StreamYard, shouldn't there? Let's see. I can put that up there like that, but I can't actually. I don't see how to pin it. Oh well. I'll put it in the discussion. I mean, in the description. That ought to work. Okay, there we go. So it should be in the description now on YouTube. And I'm only going to be able to go for probably another 30 minutes or so. So we'll try and get back on topic as soon as Desmond comes back. Oh.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, all is well.
Right.
All is well. I'm back.
So where were we?
Well, we were thinking through what this carcass may be.
Right. And
We
I gave you
had
two takes. One
easily
that was
take.
easily to take, and then one that was gonna get some pushback. So the first one again was that the carcass is just the teachings of Jesus, and that as he leaves the scene, what's left behind will attract the vultures to come and try and pick at it and benefit from it and eat off of it, as we saw with Paul. The other take is that the carcass is actually the whoever was actually crucified. So it's no secret that in Islam, we do not believe that Jesus was crucified, although we believe that there was either a crucifixion or at the very least, a claim to a crucifixion. But most Muslims would, I would say, follow the belief that there was a crucifixion, it just was not Jesus. There are several traditions that point to other people being crucified in his place. Some of them say it was Judas as a punishment for betraying Jesus, which is interesting. Some of them say it was, and are you falling asleep, bro? You good?
No, I heard you.
You look like you're falling asleep right now.
No, I'm just in this meditative state with this dog.
Bro, you're falling asleep. I know someone falling asleep when I see somebody falling asleep.
Anyway, go for it. I'm listening.
So yeah, some of them might say it was Judas as a punishment for for betraying Jesus, and some have said that it was a companion of Jesus who volunteered for this this honor that would basically guarantee him a place in paradise right beside Jesus. There's also traditions of like early Christian traditions. So this isn't all just coming from Muslims. Like even early Christians had beliefs that Simon of Cyrene was transfigured to. Oh, he doesn't want us to see him fall asleep. Transfigured to. We're gonna wrap up in like 20 minutes anyway. So if you can hold out for that long, I gotta go anyway. So yes, Simon of Cyrene is also stated to have been uh, swapped out for Jesus. And in some of those traditions, Jesus is like sitting in a tree nearby, laughing, watching this whole thing unfold. He's like laughing at the fact that they think they got him and they ain't got him. But anyway, that's another view of what the carcass could be. It could be referring to this person that was crucified, and that the vultures gathering are using this crucifixion, as Paul did, to basically push their own theological position. And that's where we get this vicarious atonement from. But anyway, that's all I wanted to focus on for this, was that Jesus is
Vicarious
telling you that's what the doctrine is called. I didn't name it. So the point here is that Jesus is warning people not to believe people when they say they saw Jesus. If you didn't see me, don't believe nobody else when they said they saw me. Basically, is what he's saying. So when we have,
I think just to sum up, at least my opinion. Oops, sorry. At least my opinion on the matter. I think the first definition seems more accurate. The other one is a stretch
that's
and
fine.
requires a
That's
little bit of
fine. I'm not
gymnastics.
putting it forward as if you have to take it as true. It's just two possibilities that are in my mind. One of them, like I said, I would not expect people to push back on, like you just admitted, you're fine with it. And the other one I would expect pushback on, which is exactly what I just said. Anyway, the main point, again, is not about what the carcass is. That's just something to think about, because why is he warning about these vultures gathering around a carcass in the first place? That's pointing us back to this part where people are telling you, these will be the vultures saying, there he is in the wilderness. And Jesus is telling you, do not believe these people. So why do we believe Paul? That's the question I want you to take home and think about. Why do you believe Paul when he says he saw Jesus, when Jesus told you don't believe anybody who says they saw me? And then going back to the homilies, we're actually done with that, I think, for now. So we'll just, there we go. Depicting a, no. Okay, so in Paul's own writings, in 2 Timothy, he mentions a first defense where no one took my part, but all forsook me in Asia Minor. It's interpreted as his admission of losing a trial before Jewish Christians, whom he refers to as the mouth of the lion. The textual differences between Paul's vision or his vision accounts that we see in Acts chapter 22 and chapter 26, they're presented as evidence that Paul altered his narrative to counter Peter's charges and retain some legitimacy after losing his first defense. The later Acts 26 account introduces positive statements from Jesus to Paul, which are absent in Acts 22, thus appearing to refute Peter's criticism. And Peter also accuses Paul of rejecting the teachings of the apostles and contending with Peter, which is corroborated by Paul's own admission that we see in Galatians 2, where he publicly boasts of confronting and condemning Peter. We're all familiar with that by now.
Of course.
And so with this in light, we would need to reevaluate the Jerusalem church's orthodoxy. So while Eusebius and Epiphanius characterized the Ebionites as heretics, claiming that they denied the virgin birth, which I don't believe, and upheld the law, the sources argue these were exaggerated and unsubstantiated ad hominem attacks.
Sorry, bro. I was tracking everything, but your pronunciation was fun. I can't wait to hear the playback on that one.
Pronunciation of what?
Unsubstantiated.
Okay.
No,
so the text suggests that Eusebius's motivation was to discredit the Ebionites.
Yeah, that's clear.
Right. Because they wanted Paul excluded from the canon, and discrediting Paul would undermine the validity of the Roman Catholic Church, whose lineage relied on Paul appointing the first bishop of Rome. All right, so this is what I mean when I say once Paul goes, it all goes.
Stop it.
If Professor Eisenman is correct, the Dead Sea Scrolls writings identified the poor, Ebion, with the Jerusalem church under James. This implies that the group accused of heresy by Eusebius was, in fact, the apostolic church led by James, the brother of Jesus and the 12 apostles.
Say that again.
I said that if Professor Eisenman is correct, the Dead Sea Scrolls writings identify the poor, which in Hebrew or Aramaic is Ebion, as in Ebionites, with the Jerusalem church under James. This implies that the group that is accused of heresy by Eusebius was in fact the apostolic church led by James and the 12 apostles. So basically, the people who Jesus entrusted to deliver his message were themselves condemned as heretics by this Pauline theology that took off instead. Now, just for thought, this isn't something that I'm saying or trying to tell you to believe on surface value. I want you to think about it, do research, and come to your own conclusion. But just think about the historical Jesus. All right. Are you familiar with Matthew 28:19?
Not off the top of my head, but thank God we have the internet.
You will as soon as you see it, because it's very famous.
Matthew what?
Matthew chapter 28, verse 19.
Let's see if I know it when I see it. Go ye therefore is all I'm saying. Oh, yeah, I know that verse, sir.
This is believed to be an interpolation.
Somebody living in Hawaii with these YWAMers? I know that verse.
This is believed to be an interpolation in the text. This isn't believed to be authentic by scholars. And one of the main reasons why is because all throughout the book of Acts, you have these instances of people baptizing people. Not once do they do it this way. So if Jesus actually told people or taught his disciples to baptize people in the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit, why are his followers not doing that? Either he didn't say that, or they are bad followers, or the book of Acts is not reliable. It's got to be one of those three things. Either they did do it, he said it, they did it, and Acts just doesn't accurately report what happened, or he said it, they didn't do it, and Acts does accurately report what happened, or he didn't say it. It's got to be one of those three things.
Yeah.
Right? So scholars believe that this is inauthentic. First of all, is there a singular name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit, or are those three different names that we're supposed to apply at the time of baptism?
I think there's a single name, but I don't know if the doctrine.
Okay, what's the single name?
The eternal creator, Allah, God.
You say that the single name that they're supposed to be baptizing under is Allah?
I would assume it would be Allah or the eternal creator. God. I mean, I wouldn't say God because that's English.
So you're saying like the Aramaic version, so Allah.
Yeah, we'll go with that.
Okay. What do they actually baptize people in the name of throughout the book of Acts?
I'm going to say Father, Son, and Holy Ghost.
You'd be wrong.
What is it?
Every baptism in the book of Acts is baptized in the name of Jesus. That's it. Full stop. In the name of Jesus, you're baptized. Done. No Father, no Holy Ghost.
Are you sure?
I'm sure. Like I said, this is what scholars have concluded upon. But you can go through Acts and check for yourself.
Nah. I believe you this time.
Anyway, so if you take this out, if you take this one verse out, there is nowhere in the Bible, nowhere in the New Testament where Jesus tells people or tells his disciples to go and teach his teachings to non-Jews. In fact, he explicitly tells them not to. Here, I'll pull that up for you. 1 second.
Bro, I didn't even say what I was about to say, which is where is that at? How'd you know?
Because that's just how we do things. You always want to see things, and it's fair. So,
yeah, thanks, Big Chip. I love these discussions too. You were taught that in Bible school that Jesus sent his disciples.
Yeah,
Yep.
that he sent them to the Gentiles, but he doesn't actually. In fact, like I said, he goes to the extreme and the opposite.
I'm gonna make you
These
fishers for
12
me.
Jesus sent out with the following instructions.
I'm gonna make you fishers.
Do not go onto the road of the Gentiles or enter any town of the Samaritans. Go rather to the lost sheep of Israel. Do not go to the Gentiles, only go to Israel.
Huh. I'm looking something up. Stand by. Because I wonder if this is, forgive my ignorance, this could just be, and I'm not trying to just find a justification, but is this not just a moment? Because I'm pretty sure there's other moments where he tells him to.
That's why I told you before that one verse, 28:19, is the only time he ever tells anyone to go and take his teachings outside of Israel. What does Jesus say in Matthew 15 when the Canaanite woman comes up to him asking for him to save her daughter who's possessed by a demon?
What does he say?
I was sent only to the lost sheep of the house of Israel.
I think I've heard that. The lost sheep of Israel. That doesn't mean never preach to the.
I was sent only. Only. What does only mean?
Bro, but just go look at Mark 19.
Mark 19. Hang on. Before we go there, let's finish up this story. Let's finish up this
The reason
story.
I was going there is because there's other places.
Hang on 1 second. We're gonna go there. We're gonna go there. I just want to finish this story first. Okay. I was sent only to the lost sheep of the house of Israel. The woman begs him on her knees, Lord, help me. And what does he reply again? It is not right to take the children's bread and toss it to the dogs.
So you're trying to say he's implying that Gentiles are dogs?
That's not the point, but yes, he clearly calls them dogs. We can follow the analogy all the way through. Even she acknowledges it. Yes, Lord, even the dogs eat the crumbs that fall from their master's table. She's like, yes, I am a dog, but let me get a little crumb.
So then what's the difference between the Gentiles and the Israel's lost sheep?
One is Jewish and the other is not. Gentiles are anyone who are outside of the line of Israel, meaning Jacob. Or you could even argue for, of course, no, Isaac. Ishmael would be a Gentile.
How can they when they're brothers?
Because the line of Gentile versus not Gentile is through Isaac. Because Gentiles, it means non-Israeli, not Israel, right? Israel is the name of Jacob, who is the son of.
Jacob is the son of Abraham.
No, Jacob is the son of Abraham's son, Isaac. Or is that his? Yeah, it's his grandson.
Yeah, that's right. You're right. And speaking of that, ladies and gentlemen, there's an upcoming episode where that will be led by me, where we'll be talking about who is Israel, what is Israel, is the Israel of today the same Israel that they're talking about in the Bible? We're going there, fellas. We're going there.
That's a good one.
So stay in the chat because we're gonna go there and ask those questions.
Yep. So again, it's very clear here. He's not just saying like
very good, big chip, Isaac. That's right. But go ahead, man. I'm listening.
He's not saying, oh, just focus on these guys first. He's saying this isn't for you. It's not right to take the children's bread. The bread is for the children. Who are the children?
Supposedly Israel's folks.
The Israelites. And toss it to the dogs. Who are the dogs?
It's in anyone who's not the children.
The Gentiles.
Yeah, maybe.
This message is not for the Gentiles. I am not sent to the Gentiles. I was sent only to, not first to, not primarily to, only to the lost sheep of the house of Israel. Nobody else. And what happened when the Gentiles, Paul, got a hold of this message? What did it turn into? That's what I want you to think about. That's what I want you to think about. Jesus is saying over and over again, this is for the lost sheep of Israel, not for the Gentiles.
Over and over again. That's one verse.
This is not one verse. This is the second verse we came to. But he does continue to say this. Like I said, this is at least two that we've already looked at. But there was one you wanted to bring up. What is it you said? Mark what?
We can bring up Mark 16.
Okay, go for it. Mark 16. What does it say?
Go into all the world and preach the gospel to all creation. This isn't implying just Israel, but all. Now, I know we still have to factor in who wrote it. Is it really claiming to be Jesus? But if we're taking that as Jesus's word.
No. What you're looking at here, is a fabrication.
Oh, now that's a fabrication?
Not now. Look it up yourself. Like literally, this was. Do you know who David Wood is?
Wait, is this still the David who?
Do you know who David Wood is?
David Wood. I don't.
And that's good. I applaud you for not knowing who he is. He is a very outspoken polemic against Islam, a Christian, former atheist, a self-admitted and documented psychopath. He tried to unalive his own father with a hammer and gave it a very hearty attempt, but his father survived, alhamdulillah. But anyway, in his debate, he's debating with the Muslim, Dr. Ali Attai, actually, and Dr. Ali Attai challenges him with this verse right here. He says in the book of Mark, chapter 16, it says that Christians can pick up snakes with their hands if they drink any deadly poison, it will not harm them. And he gave him a bottle of whiteout, which of course is not going to kill you, but it will make you very sick because it's toxic. And he said, drink this if you have the Holy Spirit. And what does David Wood, champion of Christians, say? That's a fabrication. That's the longer ending of Mark. It's not actually in the earliest manuscripts. And he's right. But that was the point that Dr. Ali wanted to point out, was that he's using this book that he himself knows is not authentic. You're actually helping prove my point by bringing this verse up. What other verse you want to go to?
I don't know. That's an interesting rebuttal, I must say, because I don't even know if it's worth going to these other verses because they might have similar. I don't know what was fabricated and not fabricated, quite frankly, to be able to say these verses are useful. But there's one in
that's what happens when the Gentiles got a hold of this message. Now you don't even know what was fabricated and what wasn't. That's what I want you to think about. Jesus is warning you, do not take this to the Gentiles. And what happens? It goes to the Gentiles. And now the original religion that he founded is gone. No trace of it. Except what we're kind of trying to scrap together from forged documents.
I'm going to marinate
to try
on
and
that,
figure out.
I'm going to let you finish your thought. But I needed to
was saying to try and figure out what he actually left behind for people. Well, not even for people, for the lost sheep of Israel. Because that's the biggest thing that these Christians that I debate with, I wish that they understood. And that's literally at the back of my mind the entire time, is everything that you're arguing for. Let's just say it's true. Let's just say that, there's a Trinity and all that other stuff. The message was never for you. It was never for you. But anyway,
hottest take of the day. Go to the chat before we wrap up, bro. I saw a few things in the chat we missed. Thanks for your
let's see.
young chip.
Hey, Summit is still here. I would love to get you on stage, Summit. I would love to hear your opinion. Because there's only so much you can type into a comment with that character limit. The lost sheep of Israel, that doesn't mean never preach to the Gentiles. It could just mean, hey, let's focus on Israel's lost sheep first. If that was what he said, you would have a point. If Jesus said that, you would have a point. But you have to change what he said to get that meaning out of it. He doesn't say, let's focus on Israel first. He says this message is not for the Gentiles. They are the dogs. These are the children. I'm not going to give the children's bread to the dogs. That is what he says.
Right. I'm going to go jump off the deep end. Well, I'll let you finish this conversation and then I'll jump off.
I'm just saying, like, it's very clear from what he's saying. And even the verses that you go to try and say, no, he were going to the Gentiles. These are all contested verses. That should raise red flags. The ones that people believe are authentic, that are actually present in the earliest manuscripts, are the ones where he's saying, don't go to the Gentiles.
Where's
the ones
that
where
even
the Gentiles
consolidated?
are included, huh?
Where's that even consolidated?
What do you mean consolidated? The earliest manuscripts?
Earliest manuscript version of the Bible.
I don't even, well, you can, I would say go with the NIV, or I think there's actually a newer one, the New English, the NSRV, I think, maybe?
Incorrect. You should go to the Coptic Bible in Ethiopia.
What? Is that your deep intake?
No.
Yeah,
no.
the Great Commission, some streams. The Great Commission in 2819 is contested. Mark 16 is a known forgery. It's not present in the earliest manuscripts. These verses that you're looking at to say that the Gentiles are included are not authentic. That's my point. And even if you want to take Matthew 28:19 as authentic, because anyway, if you want to take it as authentic,
is a forgery. I think we talked about Acts before.
Say it again.
Is Acts? You telling Acts is a forgery too? Apparently, there's one.
Acts 1:8. Who is Acts written by?
I don't remember. Paul.
Paul's a companion. His Paul's companion.
Huh.
Luke, also written by Paul's companion. So now you're going into the you're going into bad territory. This does not help you. Yes, actually, it's true. Let me put this up on screen. This is actually true. You can say that everything is a forgery in the New Testament to an extent, if you caveat that and explain what you mean by that. You can actually make that argument, though. Because the entire New Testament, everything that is in the New Testament is affected by Pauline theology. Paul is the earliest writer we have of the New Testament. The Gospels were written after Paul's letters. They come later. Even though they're earlier in the book itself because of what they're trying to get you to believe, they were written later. Paul's writing in the 40s. The Gospel of Mark, which is the earliest written gospel, was written in the late 60s, arguably 70s. Then you have Matthew, then you have Luke, then you have John, which is argued to be as late as the 2nd century. By this point in time, Pauline Christology or theology has taken over. And even the parts that the other side that is still surviving at this point wasn't included in the canon. So the book that you've written has been curated to reflect beliefs of Pauline theology. This is the whole point.
Yeah, this is the whole point. Apparently, Big Chip's point is if we are not there to witness, we have to either believe or disbelieve based on the info we have or the influences around us.
True, but what info is actually there? Sure, you can question the books, but you'll find it very hard to make the same points. I'm not just somebody who believes in my view and just ignores no, I'm somebody I was atheist at one point and I started digging through the information. I started connecting dots and following the evidence. until I arrived at the conclusion that Islam was the only religion that had any validity, that could be confirmed, that
How do you
actually,
respond?
what?
How do you respond to the critic who says Paul's vision on the road to Damascus is no different than the prophet's vision, just extended out
I
over
would
a
say
longer
that's a
period
very
of time?
ignorant thing to say. That shows me that you have not looked into this at all. Somebody who says that is not even, they're not ready to have the discussion because they're presenting it as if they know it's true. Like, there's no difference between this and that. Okay, well, you don't know that, obviously, because one, that's not true, and you saying that it does means that you haven't even looked into it. So why are
Mm.
you bringing me a positive claim that you can't even back up? The slightest pushback and that argument will crumble, right? Um, so is every religion good at its core? Well, let's think about it. What do these religions teach? What does Christianity teach? How do you get saved in Christianity? Anybody?
Oh, you actually wanted an answer.
Yeah. How is
Uh,
Christianity? How do you get to heaven in Christianity?
you accept the reality that you're a damned soul that needs forgiveness and salvation.
Okay.
And you acknowledge that through an intermediary, that being Jesus, God, the Holy Spirit, however you want to flavor it, depending on your type of doctrine of Christianity. But essentially, you seek retribution from the higher source. Treat
You
others how you.
seek retribution from the higher source. Let's be a little bit more specific because somebody can say they did that and they would not be considered a Christian, right?
Well, yeah. So the Christians will tell you to ask Christ to forgive you and take on the sacrifice for your sins, and in doing so,
Okay.
you're able to not have to um, be held liable for the consequences of our damned soul.
Okay. So, where's the good in that? Because this argument says that every religion is good at its core. If the core of Christianity is that you will never be good enough and you just have to believe that this other guy did it for you and you're good, how does that bring goodness out of you?
Hey, that's not my hill to die on today.
That's a serious question, though. Think about that. Like, it's one thing to dress things up and only focus on the parts that are favorable to you, but let's get down to the actual brass tacks. Like, what is the actual teaching? What is the actual teaching on how salvation comes? It says you try to live Christ-like, but what does that mean? What is your view of what Christ is? What is that built off of? And where is that rule in salvation? Nowhere in the New Testament does it say, or I shouldn't say no New Testament, but nowhere in Christian doctrine does it say that you have to live Christ-like to make it to heaven. In fact, it says you can't live Christ-like. It says you aren't good enough. That's the whole point of Christ coming. You can't do it.
You can do it, bro.
I'm not saying I can't do it. I'm saying according to Christianity, you can't do it.
Yeah.
If you're working out at the gym, there's other religions where people are actually working out. They got the weights on the bar, they're lifting the bar. In Christianity, there's no weights on the bar. Or as a Christian might put it, Jesus is lifting the bar for you. So how are you getting stronger from that?
Because it's not as easy as him doing the work for you. There's a level of commitment. There's a level of
Commitment to what?
commitment to staying the course, as it were.
What course? You're like still walking around the question
The
I'm
course
asking. What
is
is it
that
that you
Christ
need to be
like
doing?
that Big Chip spoke to. So the courses, and yes, it's not always baked into all the words.
So you're telling me that faith is not enough to save me.
Faith is enough to initiate the process, but it's not enough to is it enough to save you? Yes, it's enough to save you.
So I don't
But
have
it's
to do
not,
that other stuff. I don't have to try and live Christ-like. I can just believe and be saved.
but if you believe, it's one of those things like momentum always carries you a certain way. Gravity's never going to go against going down. And so once you begin to have faith and trusting that you need salvation, other things kind of lead. The fruits of you having faith will lead you to do those other things.
Isn't that circular reasoning?
You can call it circular reasoning, but it's a factor of how the faith is useful. The faith reinforces itself.
The problem with circular reasoning is that I can't actually arrive at that conclusion without assuming it.
Excuse me.
Real quick, Malachi, I saw you said faith without works is dead, which is great. It's a conversation that I love to have. But first, we don't have time for all of it today, but I will show you this right here, because what you're quoting is James, which, as we just got through saying, was against Paul, right? Paul is teaching something different. Are you so foolish? After starting in the spirit, are you now finishing in the flesh? Have you suffered so much for nothing? If it really was for nothing, does God lavish his spirit on you and work miracles among you because you practice the law or because you hear and believe? So also Abraham believed God, and it was credited to him as righteousness. Understand then that those who have faith are sons of Abraham. The scripture foresaw that God would justify the Gentiles by faith and foretold the gospel to Abraham. All nations will be blessed through you. So those who have faith are blessed along with Abraham, the man of faith. All who rely on works of the law are under a curse. Under a curse, for it is written, cursed is everyone who does not continue to do everything written in the book of the law. Now it is clear that no one is justified before God by the law, because the righteous will live by faith. The law, however, is not based on faith. On the contrary, the man who does these things will live by them. So, no. According to Pauline theology, faith without works is faith, not dead. Works are actually a curse. All who rely on works of the law are under a curse. That's straight from Paul.
Bruh, this podcast topic today is wrapping up Paul and exploring other topics.
Supposed to be.
This is not a Paul cast.
Jesus came to redefine the law, and he redefined it as love God, love each other. This is so wrong. I forgive you for being wrong. It's not something that I hold against you or that is, I would say, is even necessarily your fault. This is what the church teaches. Me and Desmond had this exact bout. He was trying to say that Jesus redefined or basically transmuted the law into something new in his flesh and his death. But that's the exact opposite of what Jesus says. He tells you the exact opposite of that. Do not think I have come to abolish the law or the prophets. I have not come to abolish them, but to fulfill them. Let's not
Forgery.
stop
This is
there.
a
Let's
forgery.
not stop there. This is not
No.
a forgery, as far as we know. There's no
See,
proof
that's
of
my
this
point,
being a
man.
forgery.
You've ran us into a circular buzzsaw of, well, what can you believe? Can we trust this verse?
That's
Who knows?
fine. If you
Who
want to
knows?
throw the whole thing out, that's fine. But I'm
I'm
saying
not
if you're
throwing it out. I'm
trying
just
to
saying
actually
why
learn
we
what the
can't have
historical Jesus taught, this is about the best you can do is look at what the synoptic gospels agree on, and that will point us to hang on, Summit, because we Desmond tried to distract us, but we're not done reading just yet.
I'm not distracted. I'm
The point to Desmond though is that the historical Jesus, we believe that his teachings can be seen in much of the Gospels, but we also acknowledge that there are known things that do not belong in these books, and so those we have to do away with.
It's a known thing.
No,
I
it's
don't know
inconvenient for you when the points that you want to raise rely on those verses that we know are unreliable. That has nothing to do with the rest of the New Testament.
Okay, we'll see.
Anyway, either way, I mean, it's not me you're arguing with at this point. You're just trying to deny scholarship to suit your agenda, but it just doesn't work that way. Anyway, getting back to it. Do not think I have come to abolish the law or the prophets. I have not come to abolish them, but to fulfill them. For I tell you truly, until heaven and earth pass away, not a single jot, not a stroke of a pen will disappear from the law until everything is accomplished. So then whoever breaks one of the least of these commandments and teaches others to do likewise will be called least in the kingdom of heaven. But whoever practices and teaches them will be called great in the kingdom of heaven. For I tell you that unless your righteousness exceeds that of the scribes and Pharisees, you will never enter the kingdom of heaven. Now, if you bring me a scholar that says this is inauthentic, then we can have that discussion of cherry picking scholarship. But it's not cherry picking if scholars accept one thing and reject something else because of evidence. That's just you not wanting to follow the evidence. Now, interesting enough, let's go to Matthew 7. And I'm going to have to wrap up after this, unfortunately. I got to get to bed. Let's go to Matthew 7, 21, I want to say. Yep, here we go. Perfect. See, my memory's not that bad. Not everyone who says to me, Lord, Lord, will enter the kingdom of heaven. Now, before we go any further, who calls Jesus Lord, Lord? Anybody? Who refers to Jesus as Lord? All right, I guess I'll answer myself. It's Christians. Non-Christians don't call Jesus Lord, unless you mean like master. I'm sure you could make that argument, or teacher. But Lord, no. Okay. Many will say to me on that day, Lord, Lord, did we not prophesy in your name, and in your name drive out demons, and perform many miracles? Then I will tell them plainly, I never knew you. Depart from me, you workers of lawlessness. Now, really quick, I want to show you this actual word here in the Greek that is used for lawlessness is anomian, no law. Okay, now we're going to jump over to, oh, dang it, which one is that? Is that 1 Corinthians? I hope it is, because I don't want to keep jumping around. I think it's 1 Corinthians. Don't think it's chapter 1, though. I think it would be somewhere between 6 and 10, but 1 second. I'll actually find it for you. No, wait. Okay, hang on 1 second. Yeah, it's 9. To the Jews I became like a Jew to win the Jews. To those under the law I became like one under the law, though I myself am not under the law. Let's take a look at that one. Go down to the Greek. And again, nomon, not under the law. All right, so those that Jesus is speaking about are following this exact thing that Christians purport today, that they are not under the law, that Jesus came to change the law and to make it easier. And Jesus is telling you in Matthew 7, if you accept this as authentic, he's telling you point blank, don't believe that for 1 second. In Matthew 5 and Matthew 7. Matthew 5 says, I didn't come to abolish the law. I didn't come to do away with it or change it. Not one jot, not one letter is going to change until heaven and earth pass away. Matthew 7, it tells you, those who are coming to me on that day saying, Lord, Lord, did we not do this in your name? Did we not do that in your name? He's saying, you didn't follow the law. Get away from me. I never knew you, you workers of lawlessness. So I gotta go because it's 8:30. I'm over my time. But I want you guys to just think about that. Think about the evidence. Try to step outside of your current framework. Try to objectively follow the evidence. Before we start talking about anything else and trying to point the finger back at other people, take a second, look at your own beliefs, why you believe what you believe, and what the evidence says about your belief. If your belief cannot stand up to scrutiny, you should not believe in it. All right. Now, with that being said, I know this is a difficult journey to take on. I know this is hard for most people to do. This was hard for me to do. I had to go through the process of challenging my beliefs. All right. I had to come from a atheistic perspective and follow the evidence to its logical conclusion. And I want each of you to try and do that for yourselves. It's not easy. It's not comfortable, but it is necessary. God does want you to be saved, and he made it easy for you to be saved if you can follow the evidence. Because the only thing that will stop you from following that evidence are things that we all agree upon are not good things. Pride, arrogance, stubbornness. If you can shake these things off, you can follow the evidence and you can arrive at the truth. So with that being said, I wish you all a blessed night. And to the believers and to those who hear my words and follow the advice, I say to you, Assalamu alaikum. And for those still struggling and still not ready, may Allah guide you and may Allah make it easy for you. I'll see you all in the next one. Peace.